It's so great to be back with TMI with Teryl and Martha. We want to make sure if you're watching us on YouTube that you're liking and subscribing. We want you to be a part of this community. But we're so excited today to be talking about a really, really important issue. Teryl?
This is Jen Tarnowski. She is the executive director of Bridging Hope, which used to be Rape Response here in Hall County. And Martha, I cannot tell you how important this woman is to our community, the things she's done. We've been interacting with Jen as a spa to basically help provide spa atmosphere for their SANE clinic. And we're going to let her tell us all about kind of all the other fun things. A lot has changed recently. And so it's all good in a bad situation. So we're going to let her talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Jen, just give us kind of a little update about how you went from Rape Response to Bridging Hope and just a little bit about the organization.
Sure. So we've actually been an organization since 1988. Wow. So we were Rape Response for all that time. And we started looking at and exploring the possibility of a rebrand to really reach out to the community, to the survivors that we serve, and have a brand that better reflects the services that we're offering and the healing that we're able to offer survivors. So we looked at that, explored that, did a lot of research over a couple years. And then the beginning of 2025, we transitioned over to the name Bridging Hope. And it has been extremely well received from survivors as well as communities.
Right. What a great name, right? Bridging Hope.
It really is. And tell folks what kind of services you provide.
So we'll offer services to anybody who has experienced any type of sexual violence,
right,
regardless of how long ago it happened.
Oh, wow.
Who is 13 and up, as well as prevention education. We are in community or in the county school systems, and we provide free education to students because our goal there is really to prevent that first incident.
Educate them, boys and girls, on the criminality and the crimes there.
Absolutely.
The boy-girl relationships. They sometimes don't even realize that the things they do or say could be even considered an assault.
Absolutely.
Right?
And so tell us a little bit about that part of it, how you got into the schools and what you're doing.
So we started actually doing education in the school systems back in 93, just doing education in 8th grade. Talking about the laws, about sexual assault, consent. And then at the request of the schools, they said, hold on, we need more. So they asked for, could that start earlier? Can that go into 7th grade? And then even earlier, they said, we need that starting in 6th grade.
Oh, my goodness. Now, did parents have any problems with that? Because, sometimes they, I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear blah, 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 let's not talk about those subjects. So did you find any pushback from parents?
So what we allow parents to do is they can actually preview everything that we're offering.
Okay.
Because we want parents to be fully aware and on board with what we're teaching. We are not teaching sex ed. We are teaching about laws and consent.
That's important to know.
Absolutely. And so when when they're sent permission slips for their children to attend the classes, they are given the option to reach out to us to receive the entire curriculum.
That's amazing.
We also will offer that to parents. We'll do a parent night to educate the parents on what's going on and what we're doing, because that's so important.
I mean, I think it's really important too. And I know when I was raising my children, I did have a concern about a lot of the programs that were coming into school, that the only thing that kids were learning about sex were bad things. You know what I mean? Good touch, bad touch. That was the big thing when my kids were coming along. And then of course, I would kind of make a judgment based on each of my individual children and where they were in their maturity level, where they were, because I don't want the only messages they got were to be the negative ones, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I also think that young people need to be aware because, there's a lot of challenges out there, especially with young people. We want to prevent these kinds of things from happening. But then, of course, if you've got a 15-year-old girlfriend and a 17-year-old boyfriend, where does that fall? And I think that's
the danger zone.
Yes, it comes, and it's not uncommon either to be 2 years apart in age. So talk to us a little bit about that.
So in the state of Georgia, what we're talking about when we go into the schools are what the actual laws are.
Yes.
So we will talk about the age of legal consent is 16. But just because the legal age of consent is 16 doesn't mean it's smart, safe, or healthy for kids to
Right.
be engaging in sexual activity. So that's real important that when we communicate that to students, that they're aware this is not going home and telling your parents,
Oh,
the girl
goody.
from
Free to
Bridge
go.
Home.
Yeah. Woo, got the green light.
Exactly. That it's not always smart, safe, or healthy for them.
I love that.
So we'll talk about the same thing. Just because the age of consent it's legal to have alcohol at 21 doesn't mean it's smart, safe, and healthy to be going out drinking every day. No. But we want students to understand that if they are 14 and somebody else is 17, that they cannot legally consent to have a sexual relationship with that person who is 17.
Right.
And the 17-year-old needs to understand that if they engage in sexual activity with somebody who is under the age of 16, that even if that person said
or even approached them.
Absolutely. They need to understand because, again, we want to prevent those situations from happening. And if kids don't know that this is illegal, it could end up in a very, very tough situation.
Sure.
So we want to prevent those things from happening.
That's amazing.
So if someone finds themselves in this situation, how would they interact with you?
So anybody can get a hold of us via our crisis line. So we have a 24-hour crisis line, 770-503-7273, or they can find us on the web at bridginghopega.org. So individuals can reach out to us either way and just say, hey, I've had something that's happened.
Right.
Kind of walk through, and we can walk them through what all their options are.
You know, I had no idea. I've been working with them for quite some time now, but I had no idea that you guys would work with people who may have had something happen in their past that has them traumatized still, you know, and maybe they don't have anybody to talk to or need some support. That's an important thing for people to know, is that there's somewhere you can go. It doesn't matter how long it's been. I had no idea. I was thinking, you know, gosh, they probably have their hands full with the current situation. But what an amazing, that makes me wonder even more so how they're pulling this off, right?
Well, you know, the reason why that's so important is, you know, when I was growing up, a lot of people didn't talk about that. Was just
no.
We didn't talk about. It was kind of swept under the rug because most of the time when things are happening to young people, especially teenagers, it's somebody they know.
Right.
Oftentimes a family
member. It could
member.
be a family member.
A friend of the family. And, you know, when I was growing up, people didn't talk about that. So there was not the opportunity to disclose to somebody.
Right.
And so now, you know, every time we've gone out, somebody has said, well, you know, that happened to me. You know, statistically, it's.
Well, I'm thinking so many children have had a brush.
Well, and I don't think it's just children. I mean, I don't mind telling my story. My parents had these very close friends that we called aunt and uncle. They were war buddies of my dad's, and both the husband and the wife were, she had been a nurse. He had been in the Army with my dad, and they moved to Florida, and my mom and I would go down and visit, or I would go down and visit. But when I was 19, I went down to visit on my own. And, you know, my aunt had gone off to volunteer. She was a volunteer nurse. And, you know, I'm not thinking anything of it because I'm thinking this guy is my uncle. I mean, I've thought about him as a family member my whole life. And I turn around and he's right there, you know, and nothing happened. Nothing happened, but it was like a terrifying experience. And I remember saying to him, but you're my uncle. When I'm not your uncle, he says to me. And so when I got home, I left. I had driven down there, so I left immediately. I made
you
up
were
some
old enough
excuse.
to drive.
I was old enough to drive.
Oh, thank God.
I'm making an excuse. I left, and my aunt. I talked to my mother when I got home, and she said the same thing had happened to her with this person.
Wow.
And
he was just
that's common.
Geared that way.
Yeah. But don't tell your father, because both of my parents are gone now, and so is this person. So I'm not speaking out of school, but I don't tell your father because he'll kill him. He'll kill him if, and you know, I'm pretty sure that's the way my father would have responded, and that's the way my husband would have responded if something like that had happened
Absolutely.
to my daughter. So, it's something I talked about a lot, but not in a therapy situation or anything like that. But after I got over the shame and embarrassment of it,
Right.
I talked about it more when I was an adult woman, and thankfully I had good people around me. And my mom was even though she said, don't tell your dad,
Right.
it wasn't that she wasn't being a good mom, is that she was just trying to keep things.
Minimize the damage.
Yeah, minimize
for
the
you
damage.
too.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, we discovered in our trauma resolution podcast that we did recently with Teresa DeCilo that talking about things is part of the healing process.
Right.
So probably the reason you don't have any major traumas attached to your situation is the absolute ability that you finally found that
Well,
you
and
can
I'm
talk
very
about it
much-
without.
I'm very much
You
a
know.
forward thinker. Don't dwell on what's
Right.
happened in the past, and
Right.
that's good and bad. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's good and bad.
Where has
But
it planted?
That's
in my-
right. That's
yeah,
right. And where is it
yeah.
going to rear its
Yeah.
ugly head at
Right,
some point in time?
exactly.
But it's, it's something that you're aware of. But I'm sure a lot of people like me
Yeah.
would think, well, nothing happened there.
not
Nothing
really a
really
big
happened. If it wasn't
deal.
actually sex, then
Yeah.
what is it? And I'm sure you
Right.
deal with that a lot too, because when you think, and I'm sure this played into some degree your change of the name, because rape response implies that a certain particular act happened.
Has happened.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And so there are probably a lot of women that think, and men to some degree.
That's not me. I don't fit
That's
into
not
that
me. I don't fit
category.
into this because this particular
Right.
thing didn't happen. Right. So I think it's a big challenge in that way.
And we've seen so many more people coming forward who share now with technology. There's digital abuse
Right.
happening.
Oh gosh,
There's
I didn't even
so
think about
much that's happening now. And we want people to know any type of sexual violence doesn't have to be a rape. They can come
Still-
to us.
that. Oh
We're
my
here.
goodness! I hope
and
everybody's
even-
listening to this.
Absolutely. Even with
It's amazing.
the digital abuse, people are having their photo put
Oh.
on to nudes and those things come up.
Ugh,
You don't have to be touched
no,
to
but
have
that goes
something
back to our
impact.
talk about not wanting to put our grandbabies on the internet.
Well,
because of
absolutely.
that.
And the First Lady, Melania Trump, is working very hard
Yeah.
on this digital part of
Yeah.
it,
Absolutely.
where people are taking images of you and spreading them around.
It's now
and,
a crime,
and that
It's
sort of thing.
correct.
And I think it's you need people like that, just like the Marty Kemp, as the First Lady of Georgia, took on the issue of sex trafficking and that kind of thing. That it's really important that you have a strong woman, mostly women. I know you guys are good out there, don't get me wrong, but a strong woman that'll step forward and take these issues on.
Absolutely. And those are all issues that we deal with at Bridging Hope. Human trafficking is happening right here in Gainesville.
Yeah. Oh
we've
my! It's
had-
hard to you just don't
Yes.
want to even hear that. That's like
Well, and it's raising awareness, letting people know these are things that are really
Yeah.
happening here in our own community. It's, people are like, oh, it's happening down by the airport.
in Atlanta.
It's happening here.
Yeah.
We've had situations, all the situations we've talked about, we have
It's
been
hard to
working with
hear
here at our
that
agency.
because we're a very Christian community. We're a very loving community. I mean, this community, we will have a podcast on how I fell in love with Gainesville, because I absolutely did. But being that we're so filled with love in this community, I think that we need to take the earmuffs off, and we need to really, really look at this and listen to it. Not just the sex trafficking, but all crimes related to any kind of emotional trauma. Sometimes we came up in a world of put your big girl panties on and just keep going. And that's kind of how I was raised too. I mean, I had a brush with a family member where there was inappropriateness, I would say, that went on when I was probably 12. Maybe 11, 12, but I was unfortunately exposed to things in life that I had no ability to consciously process, right? I mean, I made it through, put your big girl panties on, get out there forward thinking, I got this. And at certain points you realize it's tied back to some of your own behavior even now, that you're like, well, maybe I don't got this, because I'm still kind of acting out some of those things or having strange fears for my own children and grandchildren related to that, which don't even apply. So, it's important that people, I think, that find themselves in the situation going, oh, well, I think I might want to talk about this a little more or deal with it so I can move on.
Right.
But, this is a generational kind of thing that's moving into the light, right?
So if somebody comes to you, how does this get processed?
So when somebody comes to us, we ask just a few questions. We don't need to know all the details about what has happened,
Right.
but what we might say is it okay if I ask you a few questions?
Mhm.
Like, when did this happen? Because if something happened within the last 10 days,
Right. You gotta
we'll
move.
offer a forensic medical exam or a SANE exam to collect evidence.
So is 10
off of that.
days about the length of time you can go that's not going to work
Mhm.
anymore?
Yeah, up to 10 days
Okay.
for
That's
a
good to know.
vaginal exam.
Mhm.
There's different criteria for different types of assaults.
Okay.
But that's something people don't have to remember that.
Yes.
Just
They
call.
can just call us and say, hey, this happened. Is this still an option for
Right.
me? So we'll ask those kinds of questions. When did this happen? And then from there, then we walk through what all their options are. If they are 18 and over, they have the option of whether or not they want to report to law enforcement. If they're under 18,
You have to
Automatic.
report.
Yeah.
Yes.
report.
Yes.
But what we share with them is, hey, our job is to make sure that you're safe. And so we will work with you to ensure that you're
Enfold
safe.
them.
Yes.
Try to take the sting out of it a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we're both Rotarians and we have the GRSP program. And what was interesting about that is we've had mostly girls because we have Brenau University.
Right.
So my husband and I have had, I think, 5 or 6 students that we've had in our home. And I tell you what, I give them the lecture every time that they can come to us about anything. But also, if you walk away from your drink and come back, you get rid of it and get a
Yes.
new one. And I know that
Yes.
that's one of the things that you counsel people on too. I even do that at my age. If for some reason I walk away, even from a cup of coffee, if I
Yeah.
were to walk away from a cup of coffee and come back to it,
In
I
a
don't drink it
public
and I get another one.
place, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Do you know they make fingernail polish that these young ladies can put on, that if they stick that finger into their drink and it changes color, it has been roofied. There is a drug in there.
I did not know that.
Yes. I mean, I've raised 3 daughters, so I've kind
Right.
of learned and listened along the way that not always were they telling me that information, but I gathered it.
Right.
So, I mean, they're making things for these young women
So
and men.
what's your
out there.
advice or guidance
Yeah.
on that?
So we say the same thing. Don't ever leave a drink unattended.
Right.
What we want to make sure people know is if a sexual assault happens, no matter what you've done, it's not your fault. Because people say, I shouldn't have left my drink there. Well, no, the reality is somebody should not have put something in your drink.
Right. Yeah.
So it's
Turn it
taking
around.
that, responsibility and putting it where it belongs.
Right.
But what we say is don't leave your drink somewhere.
Yeah.
Make sure if you're going out to a bar or somewhere else, make sure that you have somebody who stays with you.
Right.
Make sure you come together and leave together, that
Yeah.
you don't leave somebody
Yeah.
alone. We have, unfortunately, more than times than we'd like, have somebody come to us and says, I don't remember anything that happened, but I
Yeah.
woke up in a situation that led me to believe that something had happened to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well, that's
so,
those drugs.
Yep.
That's what they do on purpose is get
Well,
you
and
to forget.
alcohol will do it too. And I
Yeah.
think it's so, it's one of those things. I always said that when I was going out as a young single woman, we never left with anybody we didn't come with. And one person agreed to stay sober with like a designated driver. Did not
Absolutely.
do that. And we always did that. We did that rule. But there are these things that happen that you don't remember. I
Right.
mean,
Correct.
and it doesn't mean that nothing happened. And
Correct.
so you have to be aware of that. And but you don't want to live in fear either.
No.
You got to find that balance between being aware of all of this, but also living your life.
Mm-hmm. And so we have had people who come to us after they've been out and said,
Right.
I think something has happened. Well, what we've done with some of those folks, and they have
Right.
said, if something happened to me, I want to make sure that something happens. I want to report this to law enforcement.
They're ready to go.
They are ready to go.
Yeah.
And so within 24 hours after they don't remember,
Right.
we can draw blood. Our nurses do that. I do not. I'm not a nurse. And so they can draw blood, and within 5 days, they can collect urine, and they send that to the GBI, and the GBI tests for 199 different substances.
Yes.
So it's not just GHB. There's
Right.
all kinds of other substances that we have found that people will put in drinks
That is
to
so
hopefully
scary.
incapacitate somebody.
Yeah.
So, people have bad intent. And so, our goal is really we want to provide them with information, as much information as we can.
Yeah.
So do you think, and you've been in this business a while, I have a theory that because we live in this 24-hour news world where we see everything and we might see the same thing 50 times, that we have this image that this stuff is a lot more prevalent. Do you think it's more prevalent now? Do you think we know more about it? Or do you think that a certain level of this is just going to happen no matter what? I know that's a big question.
That's a good
Sorry.
question, though.
But
that's very good.
But there's a lot of, so I'd love to break that down a little bit.
Okay,
Because
please
it's
do.
really great.
Yeah.
So I think people are talking about sexual violence more than they used to. So I think people are highlighting that it's, and recognizing there's not shame in having a crime happen to you.
Right.
So I think people are recognizing this is not my fault. It doesn't matter what somebody was wearing. It doesn't matter where somebody was going. If a crime happens, it's
now
not your fault.
That is an important shift. It's that something, what have you done, or what, it's more what happened to you.
Correct.
And that's an easier pill to swallow than the one that says, I was participating in that somehow.
Right. So I do think that shift in mentality is helping people feel a little more comfortable coming forward. I know here in Gainesville, we have seen the numbers of individuals that we're serving going up, not because I think it's happening more, but now people are aware that we're here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though we've been here since 88, we're intentionally making sure that we're going out and letting people know we're here, because if they need us, we at least want them to know how to contact us.
Well, that's important. I was going to segue right to the fact that, not a lot of people realize that you guys, Bridging Hope is the only location in 6-county region that offers exams. I mean,
Correct.
your one facility. Their one facility is covering so many counties in this
That's
North Georgia
amazing.
area.
And a lot of people think I'm going to go to the hospital.
Right.
All the hospitals in our region refer to us for those exams.
Okay.
So if somebody goes to the hospital saying, hey, I think I was sexually assaulted, they will medically clear them, and then they send them to us. So we will provide those exams 24/7.
Well, that's a nicer place.
It's much better.
Yes.
It's
much
it's got
better.
a spa atmosphere now.
Yes.
So we've
Yes.
given them little goodie bags and soaps and shampoos,
Which
and
they
do
love,
they?
by the way.
like we have like this whole thing with aromatherapy as well, so that they're already traumatized. So it's kind of a nice space where they can have the professionalism of the nurses and the exam, but not, we were going to have one of their incredible nurses with us today, but because she's doing her job, she can't make it with us today. But they're angels on earth.
They're amazing.
And the way that they treat these women are amazing.
So let me ask you a question also. You mentioned about it's not your fault, and I don't believe that it is. I read a story about a case where the judge, they did convict the rapist, which is unusual. I know that because it's really hard to do. But after the conviction was done and everything, the judge actually commented by saying, girls, you need to look out for each other more.
Yeah.
You should not leave your friend. I'm not blaming you, but there's a responsibility that you have about your own behavior. What do you think about something like that?
I like that.
I think,
Double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
well, absolutely. Well,
That's my girl.
when we do our education, one of the things we talk about is, if there's a hurricane coming, you can't prevent the hurricane from coming, but you
Right.
can minimize the risk
damage.
factors.
Right.
We look at it that way is if we can lessen
The
the
opportunity.
opportunities for somebody, but still we go back to it's still not their fault. But if nobody leaves their girlfriend behind, their friend behind,
Right.
it lessens the chance
That something's gonna
somebody
happen.
who is an offender can take advantage of that situation.
I went through a diving. I learned how to scuba dive. And, for years I was scuba diving because I grew up in Puerto Rico. And just because people had the gear, I'd put it on and I'd get in there and I'd kick. And sometimes I wouldn't go anywhere because I didn't have the right fins on. I mean, I was just having a ball, 16, 17. I find out later, taking a scuba diving course to actually get certified, that first of all, you never dive without a buddy. You
That's right.
never go anywhere without a
Absolutely.
buddy. That was the main thing because you are taking your life in your own hands. This has to be seen the same way. I had no idea how dangerous scuba diving was until I took that class, and it paralyzed me for a minute because I'm like, my little 16-year-old hellfire self was out there just going
Well,
to
you
town.
think you're invincible.
Yeah, I could have died. But that's how seriously you guys have to think about if you're young or our age, going
Doesn't
out
matter what age.
alone to places. You've got to have a buddy system.
It's funny because this is going to really date me as far as, I used to, what we used to do is we go out on Friday nights.
Right.
There was this place in Atlanta back in the day called Harrison's on Peachtree. And after work on Friday nights, we'd all go out there. And the idea was, and this is how a long time ago, you would meet somebody
Right.
and then you'd have a date on Saturday night. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's old school, but it also gives that gap of time between, how you first meet somebody, you get all swept up. You think everybody's great when you first meet
Yeah.
them,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And all that stuff.
Woo.
But it gives
The
you that
fire cycle.
opportunity. Yeah. And I know that's really old school, but I think the old school ideas are around for a reason. That you think about it. You stayed with your girlfriends on Friday night. You made
Yep.
sure everybody got home,
Right.
and then if the guy calls, yeah, I am old school about that too. If the guy calls,
I
asks
was
you out,
raised that
then
way.
you do that,
Mhm. Right. And we see with dating apps now, because that was
Oh, yeah.
clearly not around
Yes,
when I was growing
yes.
up.
That's new.
But that is, we see a lot of dating app facilitated assaults where somebody will
Oh,
meet
sure.
somebody, they don't know them, they go out, it's one-on-one.
yeah.
They'll take somebody back to, have a drink somewhere private, and an assault happens.
There should be rules. There should be steadfast rules for that.
Well, and I think
Coffee
too,
first,
again,
low
on that
public
way,
areas.
dating apps, we probably ought to talk
Mhm.
about that
Yeah.
too. But you ought to meet for a lunch.
Yeah.
Lunches
Make-
are unassuming. Everybody's got to go back to work.
That's
You know,
right.
you do
Absolutely.
something like that, and then you can go from there on it, and it's less likely.
Right.
Look, it is not the victim's fault,
Right.
Correct.
but trying to minimize putting yourself in
The damage.
situations
Yeah.
Mhm.
where something might happen.
Right.
And that's a lot to protect from. I realize what we're asking is big, okay? Because you cannot foresee every single situation that might
No.
happen.
Right.
And sometimes, as you pointed out, it's people have known forever. It's not
Correct.
it's probably less likely to be that person you met that night
Right.
than it is
Definitely.
somebody you've known for a long time.
Absolutely.
Is that true?
So with the stats, and hopefully I get these right, for minors, 93% of the time, if they are assaulted, it's by somebody that they know.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
high.
that
That's
number
high number.
drops down to, and I don't have it exact, but I want to say in the 70s, 70%,
Right.
75% for adults, that it's somebody that they know
Right.
or have met before.
Now, do you find, like, I have a granddaughter and a grandson. They're both they're 4.5. Now, I find that my daughter with my granddaughter is seems to be way more concerned about, because she's been divorced, and who is she being exposed to when I'm not with her, she's taking jujitsu, so she might take somebody out at the kneecaps or even higher, which wouldn't be good, but she's being armed with some self-defense. But little boys are also at risk.
Absolutely.
So, and my older daughter and her husband, if they're not with him when he's 16 on his first date, I'd be shocked. I don't feel nearly as concerned about my grandson, but he's in a whole different life situation. But do you find that it's not just assault on females or little girls. We've got it happening the other way, and people just can't digest that.
And I got to believe that's harder in a lot of ways, because the boys especially are not really trained to be able to speak out about this.
And that's why the education piece right from young children is to talk about their anatomically correct body parts, to talk about, what happens. People who are family members are grooming. So it's not the first time that they see them.
Right.
So they're getting to the point that they're trusting.
Right.
Because this is what
this person's
Uncle
there.
So-and-so says.
Yeah.
Or he, is saying this because this is what we do when we love each other.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, you're just playing with me.
Yes,
Let's
just playing
play.
a game. It's a secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. And that happens to boys. It happens to girls.
Yeah.
It does not matter. So much is opening up those lines of communication from parents to kids, from grandparents to grandchildren about, I'm a safe person, that there is never anything that you can't tell me. Nothing will ever be your fault.
Right.
Sometimes offenders are going to threaten somebody. If you tell anybody, I'm going to hurt your mom, or I'm going to hurt your dog, or whatever.
Could you imagine
is their
a child
soft place.
trying to process that? Much less
So tell us about the services, the program areas that you have.
Okay, so the easiest way I explain is we have 3 main program areas. First is our prevention education, which we talked about. We go into the schools, into the county school systems, private schools, anybody who will let us come in, and we provide that education. It's amazing. So last year we provided education to almost 12,000 students.
Oh my goodness. That's such great news.
It's phenomenal. And we're trying to expand more. There's actually a school that reached out to me today, and I got our education coordinator connected, and they're like, Jen, we really want to have the education in our school. I'm like, yes, that's amazing.
Right. That's great.
So that's our first program area. The second program area is our forensic medical. So we provide on-site forensic medical for acute or situations that have recently happened.
Right.
For sexual assault as well as non-fatal strangulation. And those are usually happening in intimate partner violence situations. And we say anything where there's been any contact or pressure on the neck. Because what people don't realize is when that has happened, up to a year later, somebody can be impacted by a stroke and possibly die up to a year later. So if we can do the exams, we don't do imaging at our facility. Right. But if they are symptomatic or having issues, our nurses will suggest, hey, we really think you should go to the hospital and get it.
You guys, I'm telling you that
it's amazing.
This information could save someone's life. That's how important it is. And this is like, there's nothing that beats information and getting education out there and understanding these things. You can talk about these things, and like, oh my gosh, I did. And you do have a different room there, right? Where the police and a relationship with Gainesville City and Hall County Police Department,
correct, as well as Oakwood, Flowery Branch, all the law enforcement agencies.
They can also be called in that location, and the person can be seen there by the police instead of having to go to the police department, which is also traumatizing. And this is what I thought was pretty awesome. And I don't know if I gave you one of our children's books or not for your room, but let's say
we have it.
Okay. So
I saw it today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yay. Ooh. But so when, let's say a woman with children, or a father with children anybody that was assaulted and they have little ones, they have a room that while this parent is being seen, that these children can be in and be taken care of when they come for their exam. And I think that keeps people away too, is what am I going to do with my children? How am I going to deal with this? And who's going to watch my children? Not everybody is lucky to have,
Right.
surrounding family. So,
And most of the time, we'll have people will come, like a grandparent or
Right.
a friend will come, because again, we want to make it as easy as possible. We've had people who say, I have to work until 5 o'clock because if I don't work, my family doesn't get fed. And so we will coordinate that with them to make sure it is good for them because we don't want to cause additional challenges and stress for that family.
So it's I mean, this is a lot of great information,
I
and thank you so
know.
much. Uh, where is the best way to, first of all, had two questions. That's why I was getting a little coveted.
She's
What are the other
multitasking.
counties that you serve? Okay. And how do you interact with them? And then how can people get the best information?
Okay. Easy. Those are easy questions. So our main office is here in Gainesville, but we also serve Forsyth, Dawson, Lumpkin, Habersham, and White counties.
Perfect.
So it's really just a nice circular region right around us.
Okay.
And so if somebody is looking to get a hold of us, they can just call 24/7. We have advocates who are available. If it's after hours, we have an answering service that they don't have to go into details, but they can just say, hey, I have some questions about whether or not, I'm eligible for an exam.
Right.
And then our advocate will call them back 24/7 and we can walk through what all their options are. I saw we had some calls even this weekend that somebody said, I had something that happened 4 months ago.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I
something.
was last week at a trial in the state from our cold case, our Saki unit.
Oh, wow.
That was from 28 years ago.
Wow.
28
DNA
years
does,
ago.
once they collect DNA, you're good to go, but that did lead me to another question I had was maybe you could talk to some folks that are listening to the podcast about volunteer opportunities and how they can help support in whatever way they can help support Bridging Hope, because there's a lot of people out there that maybe they've had a personal experience and part of their healing process would be to help other women
Mhm.
that call, because I know a lot of people that do and have worked with you as an advocate.
Sure.
And that was the driving force. It's a kind of a healing process. And there's a lot of, retired folks out there that would love to do something that could do great things. So,
Yeah. So there's a lot of different options if somebody wants to volunteer their time, whether it's working on our crisis hotline, which we do 30 hours of training. So we would not put anybody in there who is not prepared.
Right.
We make sure they're prepared.
a little bit of training going in.
A lot of training going in there. But some people say, I want to help, but I don't think I can answer those crisis lines. That's okay. There's a lot of options. We will work with somebody to find out what their skills and talents are, what they like to do, what they don't like to do. And we can walk through and find something because there's lot of
something for
options.
everybody to do, I'm sure.
So again, tell us again what the three main programs are.
Okay, so we jumped.
Because I think we jumped.
sidetracked.
We got
sidetracked. Sorry.
Okay, so we were talking about the first one is our prevention education.
That's right.
The second one is our forensic medical, which is for SANE exams as well as non-fatal strangulation. And the third one is our advocacy and the trauma healing or trauma recovery. And so what we will work on there is our team of advocates, which is our biggest team in our agency. They will work with somebody who comes in, whether it was yesterday or 4 months ago or 10 years ago, and say, here's all your options. What can I help you with?
That's amazing.
Whether it's, hey, I've had this hanging over me, but I also don't have any food to eat. We can get them connected with what they need. So whatever it is that they're asking for or needing, we're going to do our best to connect them with resources.
And then if it ends up going to court, what does that process look like?
So we will work with, so for here in Gainesville, we will work with the Hall County DA's office.
Okay.
They have court advocates who will walk them through and be able to explain the court process because we are not court advocates.
Right.
But we can go with somebody to the courthouse. We can provide them that extra layer of support. We can be with them every day that it's in court. We can take them out to lunch because we want to be that steady,
you're
consistent.
a friend.
Yes.
You're that friend that somebody needs if they didn't have that person. That's
well,
amazing.
to not know what to expect.
Right.
Our goal is to hopefully give somebody as much information, because knowledge is power, and
Yes,
let
it
somebody
is.
know that they're not alone. That's the most important thing, that they're not alone. And then we're here for as long after. We have free trauma-focused counseling that we offer at our facility.
Wow.
And again, everything is free, so nobody has to pay for anything. So sometimes having the funding or having the financial resources
Right.
to be able to provide therapy is hard.
Yeah.
They can get that for free with us.
So, one final question. We're talking to Jen Tarnowski from Bridging Hope. And how'd you get into this work, and what impact does it have on your life?
Great question.
That's Martha.
So I have always been in the social work field. Used to work with runaway and homeless youth down in Florida. And
Because everyone runs away to Florida.
yes,
You know, right?
exactly. Exactly. And so when I decided it was time to get back into the social work field, I took a little bit of time off in raising my kids. I felt like it was time to get back into what I felt called to do. And so at the time it was education. So I came into this program as an educator. I was one of the educators going into the schools, and it sucked me in.
Oh gosh, I can only imagine.
It was, and I have a personal history, so this touches close to home for me as well. And so to be able to see and give somebody their options and see that healing beginning
That's
is
something you can't put a price tag on. is it?
absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. I say all the time, this is not a job, it's a calling and a gift.
Yeah.
And I am so fortunate to have the privilege to work with the people I work with every single day, and to work with a team
Right.
who is literally changing lives every single day. It's amazing.
So, give the website one more time.
Okay. It's bridginghopega.org, and our phone number is 770-503-7273, and we are here 24/7. And I say, we're ready when you are.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I love that. And what are the three things? The three things about
Yeah, that's
when you were
that's
giving
Education,
education in school, just because you're
Smart,
old
safe,
enough.
and healthy.
Smart, safe, and healthy. We're
healthy.
going to remember that one.
Yeah,
That's
that
for
could be
sure.
another tagline for us too.
That's right.
You know, I
Smart,
love it
safe,
because
and
we're trying to
healthy.
keep everybody smart, safe, and healthy.
So it is so
So-
great to be with Jen today and Bridging Hope, but also we're so glad you're here with us. And we hope that you will go on to YouTube and like and subscribe and be a part of the TMI with Teryl and Martha universe.
Yes, and we do appreciate you sharing this with everybody you know. And if you decide you have any good topics of conversation, please comment in the notes or the comment section on the YouTube channel. And we do this because we believe that your wellness deserves a little oversharing.